Great. All right. So I'm going to go to the dashboard of my site here, and we'll just kind of start with an overview of all of the tools that are included with the Site Booster. And to find those, or that overview, find all those tools, I'm just going to click on this SNO Site Booster tab here in my dashboard. And this will give me a list of all of the different tools that are part of that Site Booster. So we'll be looking at all of these today and taking a look at how you can create them on your site, as well as your different options for displaying this content. But I do want to start with just a general overview here. So included with the Site Booster, we've got our PDF Flipbooks. That'll give you the option to upload a PDF and create kind of a flippable interactive style flipbook or magazine of that PDF. So we'll take a look at that today. We've got quizzes and tests, quizzes being kind of like those social media style quizzes. What kind of pizza are you? What Harry Potter house would you be sorted into? And then tests being more like gauging a visitor's knowledge on a particular topic, maybe school trivia or how well do you know our staff. So we'll be taking a look at both quizzes and tests today. The Site Booster comes with the Sports Center option, so you can kind of create a sports hub with all of your schedules and results and rosters and standings. Take a look at how to set that up. There is an infographic builder, so you can create different charts, graphs, maps, input your data, and then insert those infographics into your stories. We've got a form builder if you want to create different kinds of forms and have those accessible to visitors to your site, things like contact us or letter to the editor forms. And then lastly, we've got our SNO Ad Manager if you want to use that as an option for site advertising. So those are all the different tools included with the Site Booster. And again, we will be taking a look at all of these as we go along today. We'll also be sharing some examples of each of these as we go with you. So I'm going to start with the flipbooks, and I'm going to actually pull up my examples. Kyle is also going to share a copy of these examples with you in the chat so that you can bookmark that for later so that you can reference these examples. But again, we're going to start with the PDF flipbook. And that is that kind of interactive, flippable version of a print issue or a PDF. So just to take a look at an example first here, this is the example or an example of a flipbook. So they have just uploaded their PDF here of their print issue. And then I am able to kind of flip through those different pages here. There is a zoom option. If I want to kind of zoom in and read here, I can zoom back out. And so that is what the flipbook will look like once we create it. So going back to my demo site here, most of these Site Booster tools, when you're ready to set them up, are kind of nestled in this left area of your dashboard underneath the SNO Site Booster label. So I'm going to click on the SNO Flipbooks, and then I am going to add a new flipbook. And I'll give it a title first. So we'll call this one Webinar Example Flipbook. Now it's up to you. You can add those PDF pages one at a time if you want, or you can just upload the entire PDF document and the flipbook will actually split the pages for you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to click on this little plus sign here and find my flipbook or my PDF. And it's going to take a little bit to process and actually split those pages for me. And you'll be able to see that progress as it gets going here. And you're going to see all of those individual pages, again, kind of get separated out here. So we will just give this a second to upload. While it's doing that, I'll just mention there is the option to create different flipbook categories here. So, if you wanted to do your newspaper and maybe a literary magazine flipbook, you could actually separate into different flipbook categories. And then that'll become important a little later on when we talk about adding these flipbooks to different locations on your site. So note that there is the option over here to create different flipbook categories and then select the category that you want for each flipbook as you are creating it. Perfect. So now we've got those pages of our flipbook or of our PDF separated out here. If I need to, for whatever reason, this is click and drag, I can rearrange the order. but since I just uploaded the whole document, everything is already in order for me. So if I want to select a flipbook category over here, I can. We'll say this is category 1, and then I'm going to publish that flipbook once it's finished. Once I publish a flipbook, there are kind of 2 ways to display it on your site. You can either place it in a story, or you can feature it as a widget, which is just a little block of content here on your site, either on the homepage or in a sidebar or wherever you want to place that widget. So we'll take a look at both. I'm going to place it in a story first. So I'm going to click into my stories here, and I've got a story prepared that I'll use today. And I'm going to place that flipbook in the story using the Add SNO Story Element button. Now, kind of a quick tip here, regardless of the SNO Story element that you're adding to a story, we always recommend creating a line break here, giving it its own designated space in the text. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to add SNO Story element. And from the list on the left here, I'm going to choose that PDF Flipbook option. There I can choose which flipbook I want. I'm going to do the one that I just published. And then I've got a handful of design options here: alignment, background, border, etc. You can kind of play around with those. And I'm going to insert that flipbook. Now, with most of the SNO Story elements that you insert, including a lot of these Site Booster elements we'll be looking at today, you're going to see the short code for the element when you place it in the text of the story. So that is what I'm seeing here in that spot where I've added the flipbook. If we go take a quick look at it, I should see my flipbook right there in the text of my story. Again, it is flippable, interactive, and if I want it to go full screen, I can just click on it here, and then I'll have the added zoom capability with that full screen view. So the other option for displaying that flipbook would be to add it or feature it as a widget. And to do that, I'm going to hover over the SNO Dashboard tab here, and I'm going to go out to the Widget Control Panel. Now, if you've never been in here before, basically what you'll see on the right are all of your available widget areas on the site where you can place those widgets or those blocks of content. And then on the left, you're going to see all of the different types of widgets that you can add to your site. So in this case, I want the SNO PDF Flipbook widget. That's the one that I want to add. And I'm going to put that one in, let's see, my home top left, kind of this narrow space over here. So I'm going to grab that SNO PDF Flipbook widget, drag it into my home top left area here. And as soon as I drop it, I can choose a flipbook category. So this kind of goes back to when I said you can categorize your flipbooks. You can choose a specific category of flipbooks that you want displayed here. That way, if you publish a new flipbook to that category, this widget will automatically update for you, kind of like your other widgets on your site. You can also choose a specific flipbook that you want displayed in this widget. There's a couple design options for you to customize here: background color, border color. So once I save, I've added this flipbook widget to my home top left area. If we go take a look here, I should see there is my flipbook. It is, again, interactive. And if I click on it, it'll open up full screen for me. So I can use those zoom options. So that is the Flipbook Site Booster tool. One down, several to go. So we're going to kind of keep going on here. But again, if you have any questions about any of these tools as we're going along, please feel free to send those questions to us in the Zoom chat, and Kyle will answer them for you. The next tools we're going to look at, they're very similar in terms of setup, and that is quizzes and tests. So before we take a look at each of these, again, I'm going to share some examples with you. We'll start with a quiz here. So again, a quiz is kind of like that, answering a series of questions and getting an outcome at the end. So this example, what fall personality do you have? I would answer these 10 questions, and then my answers to those questions are going to get my outcome or produce my outcome at the end of the quiz. So to create a SNO quiz, again, I'm going to find that tab here in my dashboard for SNO Quizzes. And I'm going to add a new quiz here. I will start with the title, and I'm going to use my favorite example. Which season are you? And then for the quiz, I'm actually going to input my outcomes first. So the potential outcomes a quiz taker would get at the end. So for this one, I'm going to have the 4 seasons: winter, spring. I can add as many outcomes as I want here. We'll do summer and fall. And then there is a spot here with each outcome. If you want to put a little description, here's why you got this outcome, you can. And then you'll also notice this little camera icon. And anytime you see that with the outcomes or the questions or the answer options, you're going to see this camera icon a lot. That means that you can attach an image to any of those outcomes or questions or answer options. Once I've got my outcomes determined, then I can start plugging in my questions here. So we'll start with question 1. I'm going to say, which is the best activity? And then I can give my quiz taker different answer options. So maybe sledding, gardening, going to the beach, and apple picking. But for each answer, I'm going to relate that back to a potential outcome. So somebody who answers sledding here, they would probably relate back to winter. Gardening, that would probably be maybe more of a spring. Going to the beach would probably be summer. And apple picking would likely relate back to fall. Again, you'll see that camera icon there. And one other thing you'll see here is this weight option. So if you want to create a really intricate quiz with a lot of different answer options for a question, you can actually customize how strongly that answer correlates back with an outcome here. I'm just going to leave all of mine as is, but if I wanted to add maybe some additional choices and have them relate back not quite as strongly to these ones, I would have the option to add new answers and adjust the weights here. So I'm going to add one more question to this quiz. Add another question. This one is super obvious, but that's okay. Which is the best month? And then again, I'm going to have my different answer options here. Just going to add 4 of these, 1 for each outcome. And then I'll relate these back similar to what I did with the first question. So December would be winter, April would be spring, July would be summer, and October would be fall. So I can add however many questions I want. Once I've done that, I'm going to come back up here to the top and I have a few different options. First of all, I can set a featured image with this quiz. Kind of works the same as a featured image with a story. It's going to be that main image that shows at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one. This looks like a seasonal image. We'll set that featured image there. I can choose an end date and an end time for my quiz. Let's say we want this quiz to be published or to be visible for about 2 months. I can choose to show the featured image in place of the quiz title, which is a really great option if you have a staffer who has maybe created a graphic and you want to display that in place of the title. And then you can allow users to retake the quiz as well, which is kind of a fun option, I think. That way they can try to get a different outcome every time. So once I'm done with my quiz, I'm going to go ahead and publish it, kind of like we did with the Flipbook. And again, similar to the Flipbook, I can either add this quiz into a story, or I can add this quiz as a widget somewhere on my site. So I'm going to demonstrate that again for you here. If I want to add this published quiz to a story, I'm going to go ahead and click into that story here. Again, I'm going to use this Add SNO Story element button up at the top. Place my quiz right here, Add SNO Story element. From the list on the left, I'm going to choose quiz. I can choose which quiz I want to publish in the story. Again, I've got a handful of design options here. I always like to center my quizzes. And then, like we saw with the Flipbook, I'm going to see the short code here for that element. But if we go take a look at this story, now that I've added that quiz to it, I can see there is my quiz right in the text field of the story. So that'd be one option. The other option, again, very similar to the Flipbook, is to feature that quiz as a widget. So to do that, I'm going to go back out to my widget control panel here. And I've got all of my different widget areas here on the right and all of my widgets on the left. So the widget that I'm going to want is the SNO Quiz widget. I'm going to grab that, click and drag it over here. I can either use my most recent quiz or I can choose a specific quiz to display in this widget. I think the use most recent quiz is an interesting option. If you have your widget set up to use the most recent quiz, anytime you publish a new one on your site, it will automatically get pulled into this widget for you. So I've seen schools do like a quiz of the week or quiz of the month type thing, and they've got this widget set up, and then they can just go publish the new quiz and it'll automatically update. It's kind of a fun option there. Again, you've got different design options in here that you can customize for the quiz. Go ahead and save this. And if we take a look, I should now see my quiz here in that home top left widget area. From a user perspective, they can come in here and take the quiz. Go ahead and do that. Answer these couple questions. And then they will get their outcome at the end there. So that is what quizzes look like. Go back into my dashboard here. Tests, like I said, are very similar. We'll take a look at an example really quick here, and then I'll show you how to set those up. Again, tests are kind of more so gauging somebody's knowledge about a particular topic. So this example, how much do you know about ELF? There's a series of questions. They are either right or wrong. And then you can choose to let that test taker get their results at the end. So to create a test, I'm going to come to the SNO Tests tab here in my dashboard and add a new test. And we will do, let's see, how good are you at math? Once I have my title in there, I can input my questions similar to the quiz. So what is 2 + 2? And then my different answer options here, again, kind of similar to the quiz. Do as many answer options as I want. For the test, I am going to be prompted to select the correct answer. And then again, you're going to see this little photo icon, which means you can attach an image to any of the questions or answer options here. So I'm going to repeat that, add one more question to this test. We'll do what is 2 × 2 this time. And then again, I'm going to input my different answer options, however many I'd like. And I will select the correct answer for this question. Once I have all of my questions in for my test, and I'm going to come over to the right here, very similar to what we saw with the quiz, I can set a featured image for this test if I want. I can set that end date and end time here for my test. I can choose to show all results after somebody submits a test. I can allow users to retake the test if I want them to have multiple tries at it. And then one other interesting option here with tests is that you can convert them to multi-question polls. So if I select this option, what you're going to see is that that correct answer column actually disappears here. Because if I'm doing a multi-question poll, I can just gauge my readers' opinions or my visitors' opinions on multiple questions at a time. So rather than having a correct answer for each one, it's just kind of surveying them on multiple questions at once versus a traditional poll that's just one question, one answer. So you can convert these tests to multi-question polls. I think that's a really great option that I don't see a lot of people utilize, but you can do that here. And once you publish that test, it's going to be the same options for displaying it. So I'm going to actually skip demonstrating those since we've seen it a couple times already. Once that test is published, I can either go add it to a story using that Add SNO Story Element button, or I can display it as a widget by going out to the widget control panel and selecting the SNO Test widget. All right, back to our SNO Site Booster tab here. We'll see how we're doing. We've done flipbooks and we have done tests and quizzes. The next one, I'm going to actually jump out of order here and show you the infographic builder next. This is a great way to create, we have different chart, graph, and map options. And primarily I see infographics displayed in a story or accompanying a story. So we'll take a look at an example here first of an infographic. So you can see they have one type of infographic in here. This is called a donut chart. So this is kind of what they will look like when they are created and added to your stories. To create that infographic, I'm going to come to the SNO Infographics tab here in my dashboard. And we'll go ahead and add in a new infographic. And the first thing that you'll be prompted to do is select the type of infographic that you want. As you can see, we've got a handful of options to choose from. I'm going to do a bar chart today, but you could do different kinds of charts. We also have a couple different map options in here. If you wanted to do a US map or a world map, you could choose either of those. But I'm going to do a bar chart. And once I've selected my chart, I'll go ahead and give it a title here. I'm going to do number of monthly site visitors. And one button you'll see up here at the top is the option to import a CSV file or kind of like a spreadsheet file. I will just say that if you're interested in doing that, if you've got data in a spreadsheet, you want to import a CSV file, make sure that you do that before you've entered in any other data here. So if I had a CSV file that I wanted to import for this infographic, I can import CSV. It'll tell me exactly how to label that CSV file, and then I can import that data. So kind of a nice time saver there if you've got that available. The other thing I will just point out here, when you are setting up an infographic, you do get a preview of it down below. So as we are changing labels and entering in data and filling out different fields, I'm going to actually be able to see my infographic update in real time, which I think is really nice. So the first thing that I want to do, it's kind of hidden. It is in the global chart options bar here. If I click on this, I want to actually label my axis here. So I want to swap out these labels, and if I am doing number of monthly site visitors, my labels are probably going to be the months. So we'll go January, February, March. I can add however many labels I want. We'll do April, May, and then so on and so forth. So I'm going to add my labels in here. Just for fun, if I wanted to, right now those labels are on my x-axis, but I can switch axis orientation and have them on the y-axis instead. I'm going to keep them on the x-axis though. Now that I've got my labels, I can start entering in my data for each one of these. So my data set that I'm entering in is number of visitors. And then I'm just going to start plugging in some numbers here. We'll say January was a really good month for us. We had lots of site visitors. April was another good month. May was the best. So as I'm entering in that data here, again, you can see it update in the infographic down below here. Once I've got my data inputted, I've got some visual options that I can play around with. And these are really going to vary depending on the type of infographic that you select. So what I'm seeing now, this is for the bar graph. If I was doing a pie chart or if I was doing a map, I'm going to see a little different set of visual options. So definitely a fun thing to explore and play around with each of those different types of infographics. Starting with the general visual options, I've got some things in here: background color, padding, animations. I'm going to leave all of those as is. I can kind of play around with my title. So I'd probably want to copy my title here, number of monthly site visitors. I can adjust how large that title is, what color it is, the position of the title. If I want a subtitle on my chart, I can activate that there. The x-axis and y-axis on this chart, I've got some different things that I can do if I maybe don't want the labels, or I don't want the grid lines, or I want the grid lines to be different colors. Some different options to explore there. I've got some things that I can do with my legend if I want it visible or not. I can choose the different position, font size, colors, just lots of things to explore in here. And then lastly, I can adjust my data set visuals. So if I wanted, let's say, a different bar color, or if I wanted it to be maybe a little thinner and maybe a little more opaque, I can come in here and make those adjustments. One other thing I want to be sure to mention here, right now I'm just working with one data set, but if you want, you can add additional data sets into an infographic. So to do that, I would come up here and add another data set. So let's say I want to split this up into number of desktop visitors versus number of mobile visitors. So that's going to be my second data set, and I can input my numbers here. Let me just input some data. And then I'm going to see that second data set show up down in my infographic below. And because I've added an additional data set, I also have some visual options that I can adjust with that second data set here as well. So lots of things to explore here with the infographics. Once I am happy with my infographic, I'm going to come up here and publish it. And then, as I said, primarily I see infographics added to stories on sites. So that's going to be what I demonstrate here. Know that you can add an infographic as a widget as well, but that's not quite as common. So we'll just take a look at how to add an infographic to a story. So to do that, I'm going to click into this story here. I'm going to use the Add SNO Story element button. And then the element that I will select is the infographic. I can choose which infographic I want displayed. And really the only, a lot of that design happens when you're creating the infographic. So really the only thing to choose here is the alignment. Left and right alignment, those are going to be or produce a kind of smaller look of the infographic. Center is going to really stretch that infographic across the text field of your story. So I typically will stick with the left or right alignment for an infographic. And if we take a quick look, I can see here is my infographic added to the text of my story. So that is what the infographic looks like. All right, back to the SNO Site Booster here. So we're about halfway through. We've got a couple other tools to take a look at here. So the next one we'll do is the Sports Center. And this is going to be kind of like that sports hub on your site with all of that different schedule, roster, standings, information. So we'll take a look at an example here first. So primarily where you're going to see that sports information is in what's called the scores and schedules page. And if I want to view that, it's typically nestled under your sports tab in your menu, scores and schedules. And so that is what you're looking at here in this example. So you can see here any upcoming games, any recent results. They've also got this sidebar set up over here with different kinds of sports content. They've got all sports content, featured athletes. They've got a couple standings in here. And then they've got this carousel up at the top. On this scores and schedules page, I can also click on an individual sport to see just kind of specific schedule and results for that sport. And then also when I click on an individual sport, I can see different stories here, rosters and standings over here on the right. In addition, I can also toggle here to a particular sport. Maybe I want to see how the football team did this season. I can select that sport. I can even come in here and select which season I want to view that data for. So again, most of the work that you're going to do with the Sports Center tools is going to be reflected here in your scores and schedules page. So lots of things to look at with this one. And again, if you've got any questions about anything as we are going through this, please feel free to send those to us in the Zoom chat. So for the Sports Center, there are kind of 3 tabs involved with this. There is the game scheduler, athlete rosters, and standings. The first thing you'll want to do is if you hover over any of these, doesn't matter which one, I would want to go in and make sure I have all of my sports that I'm going to be adding information for. So right now I've got kind of a good amount of sports in here. I'm going to leave this as is. If I needed to add additional sports, or if I wanted to add maybe my JV or freshman teams, I can come in here and add new sports, and then I'll be able to input data for those sports. The other thing you'll want to make sure you do, and again, it doesn't matter which of these 3 I hover over to do it, is make sure that you've got your seasons. We would recommend for seasons that you stick with school year. So 2023, 2024, for next year, 2024, 2025. You can split your seasons into like a fall, winter, spring, but there's a little bit more work and a little bit more upkeep involved in doing that. So again, our recommendation would be when you're setting up your seasons, just stick with the school year. Once you've got your sports and your seasons figured out, we'll start with the game scheduler here. This is where you're going to enter your games. And there is the option up here at the top to import game schedules using a CSV file. If you can do this, if you can get this information from your athletic department or coaches, definitely going to save you a lot of time and a lot of data entry. So if I click on import game schedules, it's going to tell me exactly what I need for headers in that CSV file. And again, that'll just save you a lot of time with uploading all of your different games. You can also manually add games, which is what I'm going to be demonstrating today. So I'm going to add a game here, and then I'm going to just fill out my details. It's going to be for the current season. The sport we'll add is maybe basketball. Maybe this game's going to happen on Friday at 7 o'clock. It is going to be versus a generic school there, and it's going to be away. And I'm not going to fill in any of this score information because this game has not happened yet. Let's go ahead and publish this game. Now, if we go take a look at my scores and schedules page, which is not nearly as impressive as the example we shared, but if we take a look at my scores and schedules page, I can see now my basketball game is in my upcoming games column here. So let's come in here and let's say that this basketball game actually happened last Friday. If we take a look at my scores and schedules page, it is now showing up in this middle column, this ready to be updated. Now, this is the table that is only going to show up for logged in users. So one question we get a lot is, how do you manage the Sports Center? How do you determine like who inputs the scores once games have happened? How often do you do that? This table, I would say, is a really good tool to use. Maybe you want to come in here every day or every other day or once a week, and you want to just go add in scores for games that are ready to be updated. So lastly, I can come in here and I can enter some score information. Let's say we won this game. And I can also link out to story coverage if I've done any kind of write-up on that particular game. So now if I update that game and take a final look here at my scores and schedules page, I can see it's now showing up in my recent results table. And I would be able to click on that story link and go read the game coverage. So that is the game scheduler. Again, if you've got CSV files that you can upload, you can import those game schedules and it will save you a ton of time there. Athlete rosters is next. If I want to come in, again, I can import athletes here. So if you've got CSV files of different rosters from your different sports teams, huge time saver, you can upload those here. Again, I would just say make sure that you click on that import athletes button so that you can be sure you have the correct headers in that CSV file. But you can also add those athletes manually, which is what I am going to do. So we will add in a basketball athlete here. We'll say he is our center. I can do the athlete's grade, the jersey number. If I've done a profile on that athlete, I can add a link to that here. And then I would choose the sports and the season. So once you publish these athlete rosters, where these are going to display on that scores and schedules page is if somebody clicks on a sport here, you can see the roster on the right. Or if somebody selects a sport from your dropdown, they're going to see the same thing. They'll see those rosters on the right-hand side here. So that is the athlete rosters. The final tab here for data entry for the Sports Center is the standings tab. So this is the only one that you will not have the option to import any kind of CSV file. And that's just because standings tend to fluctuate a little bit more than, say, rosters or game schedules. So I do have to manually add in my standings here. If I add a standing, I can choose the season, the school. You would probably want your school plus any conference or section teams. So you're going to designate the school there, the sport. You can choose how much standing information you want. I'm going to do everything. So I'm going to do conference standing, section standing, as well as the state ranking here. But you can choose, maybe you just want to do state rankings or you just want to do conference teams. That's up to you. We're going to say our basketball team is really good this year. We've won all of our games, no losses, no ties, and we are ranked #1 in the state. Once you publish a standing, again, if I come back to my scores and schedules page here, I can see those standings if I click on a link to a sport over on the right here. They'll be directly below the rosters. Or again, if I select a sport from the drop down here, same thing, I'm going to see those standings over on the right. So again, the game scheduler, athlete roster, and standings tabs are going to be where you enter in your data and your information. And the scores and schedules page is going to be kind of that hub where all of that information is housed for you. But just like with all of the other site booster tools we've looked at, you do have the option to add this information into stories on your site or into different widgets on your site. So I do want to show you a couple of those options as well. Starting with adding some of this Sports Center information into a story. I'm going to go back to my example story that I've used a couple times today. And I'm going to use the Add SNO Story element button here at the top, no surprises there, to add in my Sports Center information. So different options that you have here, you can do a sports schedule, a sports roster, or a sports standing. So schedules, rosters would be great for preseason coverage or maybe mid-season coverage. Standings, kind of same thing if you're doing any kind of mid-season coverage or game coverage and you want to throw a standing in there, you can do that as well. So let's say I'm going to add a sports schedule here. I'm going to add our basketball schedule for the current season. I've got a handful of design options in here. Once I insert that schedule, if we take a quick look, there is my schedule for basketball. And I only have one game in there, obviously. It would probably be a little fuller, but that is what it'll look like. It's going to look very similar if you add an athlete roster or if you add a standing into a story. For Sports Center widgets, there are a handful that you can choose from. I'm going to hop into my widget control panel here. There are, if I look at this list on the left, you can do a list of your recent sports results. You can do a list of upcoming games using this SNO Sports Schedule widget. You can do a sports score carousel that will just kind of rotate through recent results. Or you can do a sports standings widget as well if you wanted to display some standings. I'm not going to demonstrate all of these because that would take quite a bit of time, but we'll just do maybe the sports score carousel. That's my personal favorite, so I'll show you that one. I'm going to drag it into a spot here. I'm going to put this one in the full width area. And with this particular widget, I can choose which sports I want. I'm going to do all my sports. I want to load, let's say, 10 different scores in there. I want 2 visible at a time. And I can customize the colors of this carousel if I want to. You'll see what that looks like in a minute. And we're going to slide this horizontally since it's going in a full width area. So if we take a look, I should see my sports scores widget or carousel there up at the top, and it's going to rotate through my recent sports scores. So that's just one widget that you can use for that sports information. That was the sports score carousel, but if you want to do results, a schedule, or standings, you have the option to add those sports widgets as well. Very last thing with the Sports Center. I know that there's a lot to learn here, but there's just a lot that you can do. I want to kind of circle back on this scores and schedules page a little bit, because if we look at the example that I shared, this one is obviously designed a little bit more than the one on my demo site. So there are some things that you can do here to design this scores and schedules page. The first is that you can add widgets to it. So if I look at this example, I can see kind of this sidebar area in here has different widgets or different content in it. In the widget control panel, there is a Sports Center sidebar area. So if I wanted to add some widgets to my Sports Center page, maybe I want to add some standings in there, or I want to add a list of my sports stories in there. You can add whatever widgets you want to the Sports Center sidebar, and that'll show up on the right side here of that scores and schedules page. The other area where you can go to make some adjustments to this page is if I go into my site's design options. This is kind of sneaky, but if I open up the design options and click on the add-ons tab here, this is where I can make some adjustments to like the number of results or upcoming games that are showing if I want fewer or more of either of those. I can adjust the labels for those different standings in here. I can choose when I want that page to reset for the school year, or if I'm doing custom groupings for my seasons, this is where I can change which season is displayed. And then I can also, if I want that carousel up at the top, like this example has here, this is where I can go to turn on that sports carousel at the top of my scores and schedules page. So lots of different options there for the Sports Center. Just to kind of recap all of that before we move on, you've got the 3 tabs here to input your data. Once that data is inputted, you can add it in a story, you can display it as a widget, and you can view it on your scores and schedules page. If you'd like to do any editing to this scores and schedules page, you've got a couple places to do that. You can come into your design options, click on the add-ons tab, and do some adjusting here. Or if you go out to your widgets, that is where you can design the sidebar over here on that scores and schedules page. All right, we're going to keep going. We've got 2 more things to look at, and I think we'll probably be able to do it in our remaining 15 minutes here. So the next one we'll look at is the form builder. And again, this is going to be if you want to display any forms on your site, contact us, letter to the editor, application to staff, submit a story idea. Kind of works like any other electronic form builder, like a Google form or something like that. So starting with an example here. This is a photo submission example. So they've got a variety of different fields in here, including a spot where people can upload a photo and a description. So that is what the form will look like once it is created. So to create a new form, I'm going to, this one's kind of hidden here. It's away from the rest of them. I'm going to come to this Forms tab in my dashboard, and we will go ahead and add in a new form. So I think I'm going to do a blank form, and I'm going to call it Submit a Story Idea. I can do a form description if I want. I'm going to skip that. And then I'm going to go ahead and create my form. Now from here, I've got all of my different fields that I'm going to just click and drag to add to my form. So I've got some standard fields here, and then I've got some advanced fields as well. So we'll start with the standard fields. I'm going to do a single line of text. So I'm just going to click and drag it over here. To edit a field, once you add it to your form, you just need to click on it. And then I can edit the label. So this is probably going to be first and last name. If I want to make that a required field, I can do that here as well. And then I'm just going to kind of continue adding fields to my form. So first and last name, maybe I want to do a paragraph next. I can click and drag that field over. Again, click on it to edit. So this is going to be maybe describe your story idea. I want to make that a required field as well. Maybe I want to do an advanced field. I want them to be able to upload a file. Click and drag that one over here. Click on it to edit. Maybe I want them to upload photos or supporting documents. So that I would just kind of continue that process, adding whatever fields I want to this form. One field I will mention. We have kind of been receiving a lot of tickets and hearing from our clients that they're getting a lot of spam submissions on their forms. One field you can add to your forms to kind of decrease any spam submissions or discourage any spam submissions is this CAPTCHA field over here. It is in the advanced fields. If I click and drag that over, this is going to be if you've ever filled out a form before and it says, check this box if you're not a robot. That's the CAPTCHA field. So that is one option if you want to, again, decrease the likelihood of spam submissions on your forms. There are a couple steps that you need to do here if you want to utilize that CAPTCHA field. Kyle, I believe, has a support article he's going to share with you about how that CAPTCHA field works, but I just wanted to make sure to point out that option here. Once I am happy with my form, I'm going to go ahead and save it. And now it is created and I can go display it on my site. So if I click on forms again here, I can see there is my submit a story idea form. One other option, again, to decrease the likelihood that you'll receive spam submissions in this form. So you can either do the CAPTCHA field that I just showed you, or if you come into the form settings here, there is it's called an anti-spam honeypot. Basically, that is going to search, can't remember exactly how it works, but it is going to look for something that like a bot or a spammer would have in a form submission. And if it sees that information, you can choose to not create a form entry or to create an entry and mark it as spam. So that would be another mitigation option there if you would like to kind of decrease the likelihood that you'll receive spam submissions on a form. So again, to do that, I just hovered over the form, clicked on form settings, and I activated that anti-spam honeypot there. The other thing I want to talk about here is notifications. By default, when you get a form submission, you'll get an email with that form submission. You can also come in here to see any entries to a form. If you want to change the notifications for a form, you can come into settings and adjust the notifications for it. So once a form is published, in terms of displaying it on your site, you have a couple different options. Where I primarily see forms is in a page. So somebody will have a page for their letter to the editor or contact us, kind of like you see here with this submit a photo. And then people can click on that page in their menu and fill out the form. So that's what I'm going to be demonstrating here. To set up that page for my form, I'm going to click on pages here and I will add a new page. I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to do submit a story idea. And then I can add my form onto that page. So I'm going to add form here, select the form I want. I'm going to not display the form title since it'll be the title of my page. Insert that form there. And now if we take a look, this is what my page would look like, and this is what my form would look like. Now, again, most people will create that page and then they will go add it as a tab in their menu. So just to show you that, I'm going to cover all our bases here. I'm going to publish this page that's got my form in it, and I'm going to go add it into my menu. So I can do that by coming in here to SNO Dashboard, Edit Navigation Menus, find that page, my Submit a Story Idea page, and add it to my menu. If I want, I could rearrange it here. But now if we save and go take a quick look, I can see there is my Submit a Story Idea tab. And if I click on it, it will display that form. You can also add forms as widgets. So if I wanted that form somewhere on my homepage here, there is a form widget option. I'm not going to go over that because we've been into widgets quite a few times today. And then you can add forms to stories as well if you wanted to. But again, I think the method that I see most people use is adding that form to a page and then adding that page into their menu. All right, we've got one tool left to go here, and it is the SNO Ad Manager. So thank you guys for hanging in there. Hopefully this is helpful, seeing all of these tools in use, seeing some examples. We've got one to go. Again, this is the SNO Ad Manager. There are a lot of different or several different options for advertising on your site. The Ad Manager is just one option, and it is included with the Site Booster. So to give you an example, it's kind of hard to see an example of this, but this is one site that utilizes the SNO Ad Manager for their advertising, and they've got a couple different groupings here. So they've got an ad up at the top, they've got some ads over here on the side, some ads here at the bottom. So lots of advertising on this site, and they are using the SNO Ad Manager to run their ads. One just kind of general thing to know about advertising before we get into the Ad Manager is that you can display ads in 3 different areas on your site. You can display ads up in the header here. You can display ads as a widget, and you can display ads in the footer area over here. Just kind of general information to know before we get into the SNO Ad Manager. I click on that tab here on the left. The SNO Ad Manager tab is where you're going to go to actually publish your ad. So I'm going to come in here and create an ad, and I'm going to give it a title. I'm going to say this ad's going to go up in my header, so I'm going to call it Header Ad 1. I'm going to upload my image here. This is my image provided by my advertiser. And then I can add the URL here. There is the option to display that advertisement in a new window if somebody clicks on it, which I think is a great option. There's a spot in here for notes if I want to note the advertiser's contact information or things like that. On the right, I can choose how long I want this ad published. Maybe they've purchased this ad space for a month, so I'm going to come in here and adjust that date. And then I'm going to choose the ad group that this ad is going to be a part of. The nice thing about these groups is that I can have multiple ads rotating in a group at a time. So let's say I'm going to have several different header or leaderboard ads rotating at a time. I can publish each of those, and as long as I select this leaderboard ad group, they are going to rotate on my homepage through however many ads, whether it's 1, 2, 5, however many ads I have in that group, they're going to rotate on the homepage. So I'm going to publish this header ad. As soon as I publish it, you'll see here that I have some analytics for the ad, so I can see how many views and how many clicks that ad has received in the last 7 days. So I'm going to do one more here. Again, to publish or create the ad, I'm going to come to the SNO Ad Manager, create ad. This time I'm going to do a widget ad. Now upload my image provided by my advertiser here, my link here. I can open that advertisement link in a new window. I can add my notes, choose how long I want this published, and then choose my ad group. A couple other things to mention about these groups. There are some that are already on your site for you. So you should see 2 footer ad groups, 2 leaderboard ad groups, and a widget ad group. You can create as many groups as you want. So let's say I want to do 5 different widget ad groups. I want to have ads rotating. I want to really bulk up our advertisements. So I'm going to have 5 different widget ad groups. I'm going to have 3 different ads rotating in each of those groups. You can create as many ad groupings as you want here. The other thing you're probably noticing are some of these dimensions or specs here for ads. These are our recommended sizes for ads. So if you want to communicate that to your advertisers, we've got recommended sizes here for leaderboard, for header ads, footer ads, and then widget ads. So I'm going to publish this. Now, once I've published my ads in the SNO Ad Manager, there are a couple different spots to go to make sure that they are visible on my website. So we'll start with the header or a footer ad. If I want to display a header or a footer ad from my ad manager on my website, I'm going to go into my site's design options here. And I'm going to use the Site Designer tab. Now, if you've never been in the Site Designer, this is kind of a blueprint of your entire homepage. So the header, the widget areas, and the footer. So if I wanted to display my header ad group up in my header, I'm going to add a row for it, select my content for that row, And I am going to select the SNO Ad Manager ad group content. From there, I can choose which ad group I want. I'm going to choose the leaderboard ad group. And one kind of sneaky thing, our recommended size for the leaderboard ad group is 728 pixels wide by 90 pixels tall. That's roughly how large your advertisement should be. But if I click out of here, this is actually only 50 pixels tall. So I would want to probably come in here and click and drag on the border and make it at least 90 pixels tall. That way I'm seeing the full advertisement. So I'm going to do that and then save. And now if we go take a look, I should see my header ad group there. And I've only got one ad in it, but if I had multiple in that group, every time I refresh, I would see a new ad rotate through there. If I want to display a widget ad group, that is going to be back in my widget control panel here. And I actually have two different options. I can either do an ad group if I want that rotation effect, or I can do just a single ad from the ad manager. So I'll kind of show you both here. If I pull over the ad group, it's going to ask me which group I want to rotate. We'll do the widget ad group here. And if I pull over a single ad, it's going to ask me which ad I want to display. So that single ad option is great if you maybe have an advertiser who doesn't want their ad to rotate and they maybe pay a bit more to have their ad always show up on your site. You do have the option to just display a single ad versus an ad group that's going to rotate. So if we take a look here, I should see in my home top left area, one of these is the ad group. So if I were to have multiple ads in that group and refresh, I'm going to see a different one rotate each time. And then the other is the single ad. So that ad will just always display there. So that is everything with the SNO Ad Manager. I lied. One more thing really quick. If you click into the SNO Ad Manager, let's say that I have an ad that is about to expire. We'll say this ad expires tomorrow. You're going to get a nice visual here. So ads that are close to expiring are going to be in yellow. If I have an ad that has already expired, let me come in here and adjust the dates a little bit. Let's say this ad expired yesterday. You're going to see that ad in red here. So a really nice visual for you and your staff. If it's highlighted in yellow and you want to contact that advertiser to renew, you'll be able to easily see that. If it's red, that means it has expired and it will be removed from the ad group. It will not be visible in that ad group on your site once it expires. All right, now I'm done talking about the SNO Ad Manager. And if we go back to the SNO Site Booster tab, we have covered all of these SNO Site Booster tools. So we looked at examples of each one, looked at how to set them up and how to display them on your sites. And we only went 1 minute over, so that's fantastic. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I hope that today was helpful in giving you some ideas or some knowledge about the Site Booster. Like I said, I did record today's session, so if you'd like a copy of the recording, please reach out to us and let us know. We're happy to share it with you. Kyle and I will stick around for a couple minutes in case anybody has any questions, but thanks again so much and have a great rest of your day.